He was nearly 6 feet tall and scarred all over, crucified. What if one of the most influential Christian films was never a film? No Christian picture had ever broken bounds like The Passion. Few know that this film was anything but average behind the scenes. We were never supposed to know what happened on the set, which was disturbing. The set workers still hear tales of a weird presence, disturbing coincidences, and unnatural incidents. Why did Mel Gibson make a film that every Hollywood company rejected? Keep watching, because this happens when one man crosses boundaries men were never meant to. Mel Gibson was there before A Frame was filmed, before The Bloodied Robes, and before The Passion of the Christ became a cultural sensation. Mel was a man on a mission few understood and even fewer believed in, not a global superstar or Oscar-winning director. Many people don't realize he didn't plan this film. He had to make the film. But even Mel had no idea what he was getting into. He had no idea that what happened before, during, and after this film would change his life in ways he never intended. Mel's preoccupation with The Passion began in the late 1990s, when Gibson was successful. His international fame, box office hits, and Hollywood independence were exceptional. But behind the scenes, this man was experiencing something terrible. He fought terrible demons. Addiction, depression, and a growing sense of missing something plagued him. His precarious situation led to inappropriate thoughts. However, something unusual occurred in the darkness. Mel rediscovered his faith. It wasn't symbolic or soft. It was intense and obsessive. Mel once fell to his knees and begged God for relief in his misery. From there, he meditated on the gospel, especially the passages about asking God for aid he had read as a child. There, The Passion of the Christ was conceived. Mel remarked, "I was a bad guy, a really horrible guy. My sins were the first to nail him to the cross, so I wanted to tell his story." Mel obsessed over recounting Jesus' last hours, as it happened, in all its raw and horrific detail, not as a parable or sanitized Hollywood epic for entertainment. Research became his focus. He read scripture, the Stations of the Cross, historical materials, and mystic writings like Anne Catherine Emmerich's visions. He didn't care about opinions. He sought realism, precision, and authenticity. He thought Jesus should speak Aramaic. Latin would be spoken by the Romans. No English, modernism, or anything to lessen the film's blow. That's where the issues started. Mel's pitch to various Hollywood studios was promptly rejected. His idea, depicting Jesus' horrific crucifixion in ancient dead languages with subtitles and no commercial hooky, was kindly received, but executives warned him no one would watch it. They never sponsored or donated to it. Mel was undeterred. He realized Hollywood wouldn't consider it without a script revision. But he recognized that if he compromised on the small aspects they wanted changed, the picture would lose its core. So, he did the unthinkable. Mel bravely funded the entire film himself, spending $30 million on production and $15 million on promotion. Outside investors, studio backing, and safety nets were absent. The stakes were huge. This film would crumble if it failed. Mel didn't care, because this picture was no longer a commercial deal. He would breach all rules for his calling, but his next move raised more suspicions. Mel decided against Hollywood actors for the film. No celebrities, distracting faces, or A-list actors to detract from the tale. He thought the film should feel ancient, ageless, and anonymous, so viewers would perceive Christ rather than the actors. Mel chose Jim Caviezel, whose life this film transformed in that way. As a serious, devout Catholic actor, Jim was most recognized for supporting roles. He has the intensity Mel wanted and the humility to play the hardest job. When Mel offered him the role, Jim accepted. He was prepared for anything. Mel reportedly called him back after offering him the role and said, "You'll never work in this town again." Jim replied, "We all have to embrace our crosses. Jesus is as controversial now as he has ever been. Not much has changed in 2,000 years. From there, the cast formed. Mel then announced his courageous decision to shoot the entire film in Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew, without current translations. The goal was to immerse the audience and erase modern influences. Although subtitles would be added later, Mel hoped viewers would grasp the emotion, betrayal, anguish, and sacrifice without them. The film got textured with words. Its sound was even more powerful. The film's harsh Roman Latin and sorrowful Aramaic made it feel entirely different from present times, but emotionally real. Mel made other bold choices. Hollywood might have created a green screen Jerusalem, but he declined. Instead, he wanted rugged mountains, fractured ground, and actual weather. The filming took place in Matera, Italy, a rock-cut village. Its ancient stone houses looked biblical, eerie, raw, and unspoiled by contemporary life. However, frigid temperatures, severe winds, and unpredictable storms made conditions terrible for the cast and crew. They created a whole crucifixion site on a hill outside town. Golgotha was recreated in full scale with wooden crosses, dirt walkways, old tools, and no plastic. As pre-production progressed into filming, performers and crew felt this project was distinct. Later, Jim admitted that they all realized something strange and unusual was happening. Stories spread about silent reverence on set, people crying during rehearsals, and a supernatural power. As cameras started rolling, they realized they weren't alone on set. The atmosphere on set for The Passion of the Christ changed shortly after filming began. It was obvious this production was unique. The spiritually focused film production evolved into an experience that many still struggle to articulate. On Golgotha Hill, one of the earliest odd events occurred. While on the cross, lightning struck Jesus actor Jim Caviezel. The incident shocked the team. The incident caused him to lose balance, hurt his tongue and cheeks, and require 2 heart surgeries, including open heart surgery and a protracted medication recuperation, according to Caviezel. Lucky for him, his ailment was treated years later. Even more strangely, lightning struck again a few minutes later, hitting assistant director John Michelini, who had been struck before during the same production. 2 lightning strikes on the same set at the same place are rare. Scientists could label such incidents statistically rare, but many on the set saw them as signs or messages. Several other odd events occurred. Crew members whispered about a tense mood. Some reported a felt presence that could not be seen. Some suffered dizziness, nausea, or emotional distress, especially during powerful moments like the scourging, cross-bearing, and crucifixion. Director Mel Gibson, noted for his composure, left the set during such moments. People thought he was praying. Others said he was overwhelmed. Filming was conducted in Matera, Italy, an area with mild weather. The weather was strangely erratic during production. Sunny mornings regularly turned dark and windy, only to clear again within minutes. Sudden gusts disrupted shooting, knocked equipment over, and generated sandstorms that toppled tents. These sudden and strange situations felt like more than just natural hurdles. Filming was stressful for Jim Caviezel. Some onlookers remarked that he was not merely playing Christ, but also undergoing many of the role's challenges. Scourging scenes had safety safeguards to prevent injury. The whip's angle was adjusted and hit directly, causing a 14-inch wound in one take. Later, he collapsed and dislocated his shoulder while carrying the crucifix. According to reports, some of the film's screams were real pain reactions. Cosmetic artists also noted that some of Caviezel's bruises were authentic, making it hard to tell cosmetics from real injuries. He also got hypothermia during the frigid, stormy crucifixion scenes. Caviezel suffered physically and emotionally during filming. His physique was tested by adverse weather, long hours, and physically demanding scenes. His initials, JC, are the same as Jesus Christ's, and he was 30 years old during filming, the same age Christ was during his crucifixion. These parallels gave the picture a curious reputation, whether by chance or symbolism. Some cast and crew members were also affected during the production. Undiagnosed diseases, fevers, sleeplessness, and frightening nightmares occurred during or after emotionally stressful events. Despite this, Mel Gibson never commented on the peculiar incidents. However, production insiders noticed a change in his behavior. He apparently grew more introspective and prayed daily. He was often observed pacing early in the morning, reading the Bible alone. For many, the picture became more than just a movie. It represented a spiritual fight. Some saw it as a spiritual war between opposing powers. Gibson called The Passion of the Christ a spiritual enterprise, a kind of personal and creative expression with a greater purpose. On February 25, 2004, the film opened loudly. The impact was instant and strong. It was one of Hollywood's most controversial pictures before its debut. Critics and religious leaders pledged support, while others voiced significant reservations. Despite the uproar, the picture was a cultural milestone. It prompted global conversations, powerful reactions, and a lasting impression on spectators. The Passion of Christ's red carpet premiere didn't have flashy lights or star interviews. There was no major press tour. Avoid late-night talk show ads and interviews. Mel promoted this picture without using mainstream marketing. He enlisted churches for marketing. Evangelical leaders, Catholic priests, and Christian influencers received early film cuts. Church basements and conference halls across the U.S. hosted private screenings. Something wild happened when pastors endorsed the picture from the pulpit, hyped it, and called it the most compelling depiction of Jesus ever. Faith community action elevated the film. Some church organizations booked full cinemas and buses to view the film. Actually, sermons were built around the release date. Many Christians saw the Passion of the Christ as a spiritual experience. Mel Gibson's controversial endeavor became one of cinema's major cultural events. The analysts were shocked. On Ash Wednesday, the picture grossed $23.5 million. It earned $83.8 million in its opening weekend, surpassing all predictions and becoming the greatest February debut ever. It continued. The Passion of the Christ, an R-rated, subtitled, violent religious film with no Hollywood stars, was drawing people. As the highest-grossing R-rated film of all time, it grossed over $611 million worldwide and $370 million in the U.S. before leaving theaters. A phenomenon, not merely a success. An independent $30 million film sponsored by Mel Gibson shattered Hollywood expectations. The entertainment business was speechless. Success brought a flood of criticism. The Passion of the Christ sparked anger before its premiere. The Anti-Defamation League and other Jewish groups accused the video of propagating anti-Semitic tropes, particularly the age-old claim that Jews killed Jesus. Abraham Foxman of the Anti-Defamation League stated, "Our concern is that the Passion of the Christ could fuel the latent anti-Semitism that exists in the hearts of those people who hold Jews responsible for the death of Jesus, which always has been the source of Western anti-Semitism." Mel Gibson claimed that the film simply depicted biblical events. Not many researchers and activists believed it. This led to heated disputes on talk shows, tabloids, and even in religion. Many people nevertheless came to see the movie. Another criticism was that the film was too explicit and nasty. Critics said Gibson enjoyed the violence. Some reviewers found the almost 10-minute scourging scene overly graphic. Reports say audience members fainted, vomited, or left in tears. Roger Ebert, one of the few critics to commend the film despite its intensity, commented, "The movie is 126 minutes long, and I would guess that at least 100 of those minutes, maybe more, are concerned specifically and graphically with the details of Jesus' torture and death. This film is the most violent I've watched." Another critic, David Anson, wrote, "Instead of being moved by Christ's suffering or awed by his sacrifice, I felt abused by a filmmaker intent on punishing an audience for who knows what sins." Despite all this scrutiny, Mel Gibson largely remained silent and let the film speak for itself. The Passion of the Christ was controversial worldwide. The picture was admired in Mexico. Catholic audiences packed Italian and Polish theaters nightly. The film played in Brazilian slums and cathedrals. However, in France and Germany, where anti-Semitism is extremely sensitive, the film was strongly criticized, and numerous cinemas pulled it. Many Christians called the film divine. Viewers felt spiritually changed. Some reported physical or emotional recovery after watching. The film revived Christ's sacrifice in churches. Evangelists distributed records to convert. Many believers considered this film the most powerful evangelistic tool since the Bible. Outside the church, critics, scholars, and filmmakers accused Mel of inciting religious conflict, praising violence, and promoting a fundamentalist worldview. Mel's personal life was targeted by this criticism. Reporters examined his family history. His father's notorious Holocaust opinions and his own enigmatic and defensive interviews stirred up controversy. The Passion of the Christ became more than a film. A cultural fault line had formed. Later, it was clear. The Passion of the Christ altered the film industry. It revealed a huge, untapped Christian audience that Hollywood had ignored for decades. Studios rushed to approve faith-based projects. After it, God's Not Dead, Heaven is for Real, and War Room were made. The Passion was the gold standard, which they all attempted to emulate but failed. The lights went out after headlines, and airwaves debated praise and criticism. The cameras stopped rolling, and the world saw the final cut. For those who witnessed and participated in the Passion of the Christ, the story continued after the credits rolled. If anything, it had just begun. The performers, crew, and Mel Gibson's fate in the months and years after the film's premiere were almost as dramatic and mysterious. Some found God, some disappeared, others appeared to have unspoken scars. An unsettling pattern emerged that Project insiders couldn't discuss. Post-experience life. Start with Jim Caviezel, the film's protagonist. Before the film, Jim was a rising star. He was lauded for The Thin Red Line and Angel Eyes with Jennifer Lopez. He played Frequency alongside Dennis Quaid, and Hollywood saw him as a reliable, bankable, clean-cut lead. He played Jesus, and his life was transformed. After the movie's success, Jim's phone should be ringing non-stop. It didn't. Positions weren't forthcoming. Quite the opposite. His career cooled overnight. Some in Hollywood called him excessively devout, while others called him demanding. For years, industry insiders have rumored that Jim was banned. Some found him toxic for playing Jesus and vocally supporting Mel Gibson. Jim stated in an interview, "All of a sudden, I stopped being one of the 5 most popular actors in the studio, and I hadn't done anything wrong." He played Jesus. The kicker, Jim denies regrets. He says he would do it again if he had to, because this picture was more than a role, a call. Jim now plays Christian roles and speaks at religious conferences. He often gets emotional about the event and calls it spiritually transformational. He also spoke publicly about his faith amid the film's charges and controversy. According to an interview, "I had no choice but to defend my faith. At that point, I was called anti-Semitic and everything. The Passion should have been Mel's breakthrough. He ultimately proved everyone wrong." Hollywood laughed at him, but he built a global smash with ancient languages and no stars. He lost control of his personal life while the movie was successful. In the years after the film, his reputation plummeted. He famously ranted anti-Semitically during his 2006 DUI arrest. It ended his career and made him a pariah. There was more. More controversies followed. There were tabloid meltdowns, leaked calls, and inappropriate behavior claims. A complete fall from grace, according to many. Some, especially his Passion collaborators, think there's more to the story. In his obsession with telling Christ's tragic story, the film changed him, they claim. Mel says he was changed after making the movie. He's implied cryptically that his emotional and professional blowback wasn't normal. He thinks it's a result of his life-changing film. Mel remains certain that The Passion was a heavenly assignment. His life's labor, he says. A sequel has been in the works for years, but specifics are kept confidential. The funny thing is that he hardly talks about the picture anymore, despite its success and attention. His friends claim some parts of that journey are off limits. Mel and Jim weren't the only ones with unusual camera experiences. Someone was affecting the crew. Several crew members changed their minds and started studying the Bible during breaks, according to set reports. During filming, extras, technicians, caterers, and others who were never named silently communicated their dreams, visions, and seemingly incomprehensible emotions.